Tell me who you are. I'm Mary. My heart stopped beating for the first time when I was 7 years old. Thanks to medical assistance, I was able to be revived after I technically died. On 4 separate instances, it occurred again, but each time I was rescued. No matter where I went when my heart stopped beating, I was always brought back to life anew. At the age of 7, I was sound asleep in bed. I was unable to breathe or summon my mother's help because of the terrible pressure on my chest. My parents could hear my glass of water smashing against the floor, so I must have dropped it from my stand. Then an excruciating, searing agony shot through my skull. I found myself ascending a type of slide before I really realized it. Looking down, it appeared to be a slide. As I careened up the slide, the agony in my chest and brain melted away, and I was filled with an overwhelming sense of exhilaration. Tingling spread over my entire body. When my heart and lungs quit working, I had an overwhelming sense of joy, tranquility, and love like I had never before. My heart raced as I soared down the slide and into an unfamiliar but breathtaking valley. Everywhere you looked, there were flowers. There were bluebell-like blossoms, stunning roses in brilliant red and yellow, and countless more kinds of flowers whose names I couldn't place. Nonetheless, I had never seen anything like them. They were all undulating and living. I felt like I was transported back in time to Sundays spent at church with my parents, listening to the choir sing and the organ play beautiful music. They were swaying and seemed to be chanting some sort of really sweet sounds. A pond, seemingly alive and wavy, radiated light and made the same tinkling noises as the wind chimes we have on our porch. Sitting on the ground, atop the lovely, lush, bright grass-like texture, I was completely captivated. It was as if I had spent all my life there. I was completely at ease, joyful, and terrified of nothing. It was as if I had been there previously. After passing away from distemper 3 months ago, my cat Buttons approached me and placed his shining form in my lap, or rather, where my lap would have been if I had a solid body, which I sadly do not. It was more like I could feel his presence, but neither my body nor his could be seen. He was purring extraordinarily loudly, and we were largely just a halo of intense light. His gentle caress, as if he were lapping my face, sent a pleasant tingle down my spine. It wasn't like listening with your ears. Rather, it sounded more like mental noises and a recollection of his purring. Seeing him brought overwhelming joy to me. I had longed for his presence. Despite my parents' assurances that Dad was with God in heaven, and that I would see him again in the future, I did not truly believe them at the time. What baffled me was that both Buttons and I were see-through. It felt like just a moment before he departed from me, and I longed for his presence. I assumed he was merely wishing to introduce himself. As I lay on the grass, a person floated over to join me. Wearing a long white robe, his face glowed like burning bronze. He glided toward me, but I couldn't make out any footprints. I couldn't help but think, I think this must be Jesus, as he resembled the image of the Messiah that hung in the Sunday school classroom, the only difference being that his skin had a dark copper hue and radiated a radiant light. I felt very safe around him since he exuded warmth and laughter. I felt as light as a feather as he lifted me upon his shoulders, or what seemed like a person's shoulders, and we walked, seemingly weightless, all the way to the end of the valley. Before you knew it, we had swooped in. Before I knew it, he had me dropped or floated onto what appeared to be a solid wall. It was glowing and see-through, like the mat that came with my brother's microscope kit. But it wasn't. He spoke to me mentally, assuring me that my adoptive parents would be devastated if I did not return to them. He said that they needed and loved me. After a series of abusive foster homes where I endured malnutrition, beatings, and starvation, a kind couple adopted me and raised me with love and compassion. I was in a really bad health state when they took me in. I had rickets, malnutrition, and malformed feet from the disease, which made it impossible for me to walk. Biological things, such as dust and cut grass, were among the numerous things to which I was allergic. Throughout most of my life, I suffered from terrible hay fever and a perpetually runny nose because of my allergies. I didn't learn I had allergies until I was 20 years old. A battery of testing revealed that I was allergic to 14 different things. I was brought back to health by my adoptive parents, who loved me very much. However, I was concerned that the excruciating agony I had experienced would return if I left where I was, so I resisted the need to leave. It was a place of breathtaking beauty where I felt completely at home and truly belonged. He assured me that returning would not cause me any harm, that he would protect me for the rest of my life, and that I would eventually see him again and be by his side. I was racing down the dark, tunnel-like slide thing. The next thing I realized, I was informed afterwards that I was absent for over 15 minutes when my heart stopped beating due to a stroke. Eventually in life, I received a diagnosis of CD syndrome, which is also known as SCA syndrome, for sudden cardiac death. I was hooked up with all sorts of tubes and gadgets, monitored my heart, was on oxygen, and drooling out of the right side of my mouth when I became cognizant after being sent back by that wonderful entity. I spent at least a week in the hospital. Surprisingly, considering how long it took for the ambulance to reach my house, the damage from the stroke did not appear to be too significant, according to the several tests that were conducted. Almost 10 minutes passed. For what felt like an eternity, I had departed from Earth. While I was gone, I had no idea how long it had been, but it felt like an eternity. I can't shake the memory of the luminous man who warned me to return to my loved ones and promised to shield me from harm if I did so. He kept his word and kept his vow, no matter who or what he was. My greatest desire was to return to the place I went when my soul departed from my body. I still have a little right side droop in my mouth. It's barely evident unless I grin. But if you don't look for it, you won't see it. As far as anyone could tell, that was the only thing that had changed. It is a marvel that I did not suffer from brain damage. Paramedics used paddles, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, and a shot to get my heart pumping again after my parents told me I had died. I subsequently recovered. Going where I did changed me forever. After that, I experienced a plethora of paranormal events, including seeing auras, having sensations of impending doom, and having intuitions that frequently came true. I didn't realize that not everyone had the same experience with auras as I had. I simply thought everyone did. I couldn't believe it. I continue to see them even now. By perceiving auras, I am able to gain insight into people's mental states and receive warnings of impending peril in this earth incarnation. I assign significance to every hue I perceive. I had never encountered death before that. As the hour winds down, everything in the sky becomes illuminated. The hour comes for every one of us,